I do hope that somebody does run in the primary against the president. I think the Republicans need to be reminded of what conservatism really is and what it means to be decent.
Republican Senator Jeff Flake retiring from the Senate this year. Will he be a candidate in 2020? We're going to talk about that in a bit. We want to introduce him now. Senator Flake, thanks for joining us this morning. I do want to get to that, but let's begin with the news of the day. Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi journalist who has disappeared in the Turkish embassy. You heard Larry Kudlow right there saying the president's saying he's going to take severe action. What should be done?
Well, severe action needs to be taken, and I think the Congress will take it upon themselves to take that action if it turns out, as the press reporting seems to indicate, that Saudi Arabia was involved.
But you say they're going to take some kind of action. The president has ruled out, it appears, stopping the arms sales to Saudi Arabia. I know you were against stopping the arms sales in the past. Right. Does this kind of a violation, if indeed the Saudis were behind the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, should that stop U.S. arms sales?
I do think that arms sales will be affected. Certainly our involvement in Yemen with Saudi Arabia will be affected. That involvement barely survived in the last go-around with the National Defense Authorization Act. It certainly won't survive with this kind of accusation if it is true.
You say if it is true. Jamal Khashoggi was seen going into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. He was never seen coming out. That was over a week ago now. Is
Right.
there any other explanation at this point?
There sure doesn't seem to be. The Saudi Arabia government has been asked, the ambassador has been asked directly to bring information back. They haven't done so. Their explanation that their closed-circuit television just streamed and didn't record just isn't plausible. There's just no good explanation, and I think they know it. I wouldn't be surprised to hear different explanations coming out of the Saudi government very soon. Explanations that, frankly, won't make much sense, that it was done by lower-level folks and that MBS didn't have any involvement. That's what I would expect to come next.
Let's talk about President Trump. We've seen him out on the campaign trail pretty consistently over the last week. One of the issues he started to raise again is the return of the family separation policy. Let's take a look.
Now everybody wants to come in, and they come in illegally, and they use children. In many cases, the children aren't theirs. They grab them, and they want to come in with the children. So we're looking at a lot of different things having to do with illegal immigration. I will say this, if they feel there will be separation, they don't come.
So the president's talking about bringing that policy back in some form. It comes as we have this new poll out this morning showing Democrats now have a huge edge on immigration over Republicans. Is the president making a mistake here?
Yes, he is. We shouldn't bring that policy back. That simply is un-American, and I think everybody recognized that. The president seemed to. Certainly the First Lady and others spoke directly against it. So I hope that we don't return to that policy.
Let's talk about Justice Kavanaugh. You ended up voting for Justice Kavanaugh confirmation on the Supreme Court. He took his seat on the court. But now in our new poll, 50% of Americans say the Judiciary Committee you sat on didn't do enough to investigate. More than 50% support more investigation by the new Congress. Are you concerned that Americans see this whole confirmation process and perhaps the court itself now tainted?
Well, that was my concern when we finished the process and were about to vote in the Judiciary Committee. And that's why I requested, or basically demanded, that we have an FBI investigation to look further into this. We had that. I know a lot of people wanted it to be more broad. I would have liked to have started it earlier and had it more broad. But it was a good investigation. I think we're in a better place than we would have been. And I don't think that we should move forward, the Congress certainly, with additional investigations, either into the leak that occurred, that allowed a lot of the back and forth to go between Democrats and Republicans, or certainly trying to remove Justice Kavanaugh from the court, as some of the Democrats have said that they would do.
That's your counsel to Congress. How about your counsel to Justice Kavanaugh? How should he handle himself on the bench going forward?
Well, he gave a very gracious and magnanimous speech at the White House after he was confirmed, and if you look at his record on the circuit court, everyone on the circuit court, those who worked with him, clerks, his colleagues, said that he was courteous and there was nothing but good decorum and temperament during that entire time. And I think that that's how he will act on the court. So I think we can move on. It was an awful process, frankly, for all of us. Nobody wants to go through something like this again. But it was nice to see everyone from the court, those appointed by Republicans, those appointed by Democrats, all there to welcome him on the court, and that's a good thing.
We just saw Larry Kudlow downplay the UN's findings on climate change. We've seen dramatic shifts in how Republicans think about climate change over the last several years. Are they going in the wrong direction?
I think so. I think that we've got, I mean, there's been more recognition among Republicans. The administration hasn't taken the view of some of us that this is something we really need to deal with. I hope that we can move along with the rest of the world and address this. It's going to be challenging. Obviously, that report that came out is pretty dire, but there are things that we can do and should do. And I think Republicans need to be at the forefront if we want to keep our place and keep our seats.
And you talk about keeping your seats. Let's talk about the midterm elections. We showed you talking about your hope for a primary challenge to President Trump as a way to bolster conservative values. So I wonder what you make of the argument of George Will, good conservative, who said conservatives should actually vote for Democrats in the midterms as a check on President Trump.
Well, I hope that Republicans, certainly in the Senate, we're concerned about the investigation, making sure that it continues. The House Republicans have taken a little different position publicly, but the Senate, gratefully, the Senate Intel Committee has acted in a bipartisan fashion to make sure that we move forward, that Bob Mueller concludes his investigation on his timing, not ours. So I think that Republicans need to provide that check. That's what our system of government does. And I hope that they can without a change in who controls Congress. But I think that may be coming if you believe the conventional wisdom, and I kind of do. The House will likely flip. The Senate will remain in Republican hands.
Jeff Flake, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me on.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.